which would be student comments. We have with us tonight our new Network High School student representatives to the school committee. They are, and I'm sorry, I want to make sure I pronounce this correctly, Dia Deliwala, okay, and Michael Flanagan. Dia is a junior, Michael is a senior, and they will be representing the student body on our school committee this year. And I'd love to give you two an opportunity to do
Okay. My name is Michael. As you said, I'm a senior. I'm really looking forward to representing my peers. Really interested in band and Spanish program, and a few other clubs like Model UN, Spanish Club. And I just like to thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Awesome.
And I'm going to introduce and through leadership. I'm really excited to be here with this
Welcome, both.
Up next, we have our interim superintendent.
Again, I always have the opportunity to follow our students.
Yes.
So I have to work on that one. But I also want to say I'm just really happy to have both of our student representatives here. And we have a great process and have a little intro training, I don't know what you want to call it, orientation, I guess we did on Friday, just about what it's like to be a member of a student member of the school committee. So they're really eager to be here, and I'm excited to have. So I have a couple items for today to share. The first one that I have is to review our substitute teacher and nurse pay. I shared with you a chart of comparisons with other districts to share what the going rate is for substitute pay. I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at that chart, but if you look within our region or with schools a little bit beyond our region, we were one of the lowest daily sub rates for $80 a day for sub, and for nurses, $100 a day. So based on the comparisons, we're proposing to raise the daily sub rate for teachers to $100 daily rate of $5 a day, and nurse sub rate of $120 a day. Per policy, this is one thing that the school committee would need to have a motion.
Any questions from the school committee?
How competitive will those rates be?
We felt like it moved up in the range. It's not at the top of some of the ranges, but it definitely is more competitive than some or equal to.
And are we like at the midpoint? Are we like, I'm just asking from the standpoint of, does it make sense? I mean, I'm not,
It wasn't,
I guess the question I have is,
yeah.
are those high enough?
Well,
Is the question. Maybe I shouldn't ask that and I should be just happy with what it is, but I kind of feel like we can give this one a shot and then we can see, are they really high enough or not high enough? You know, because if I look at it, I kind of see like Hopkinton is like, I think 100, somewhere in there. Milford is 110 for certified, 95 for there, 145 for a nurse. And I'm not saying we're necessarily Milford. Northbridge is 110, 95, 130. I'm just asking.
Yeah. I think that's a great question, and certainly when we, I don't know if you want to add to Jay at any point, but when we were looking through and doing the averages, we were trying to shoot per competitive rate, like somewhere in the middle. We didn't jump to the high end for it to be a large jump for us. We needed to see what the impact would be budgetarily. We knew we'd be able to handle the growth that we have in it right now, but I don't know if it's necessarily going to make a difference in the market that we have right now of getting subs, but it'll at least be compensating the subs that we do have at a more competitive rate closer to the market rate in our area. I thought it was helpful to take a look at some of the other schools, basically pulled a couple different charts that were being shared throughout the state just to get a sense of where other districts are. And I pulled out some of the regions that were much, much higher, just to kind of give you the range. I don't know if you want to speak.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would be hesitant to go a lot higher than this at this point, just because the budget was set a long, long time ago. We should be fine with what we're proposing. I think the issue with getting subs right now is two things. One was partially the pay, but also the whole pandemic thing. People just really don't want to come and be subs at schools. So I think we need to do this for this year and see where it goes. We can revisit it as we start to look at next year and see if we can get any increase based on, these rates. I've never thought we should be the highest. We shouldn't be the lowest. We should try to shoot for the middle. I think we're kind of hitting that target. You're correct that Milford and Hopkinton are a little bit higher, but those are also higher paying districts all the way around. Not just for subs, but for just about everything.
So with the spreadsheet of information you sent to us and selection of schools that you chose, we've got an average of $99 at the rate for certified and $93 for the daily non-certified.
I can speak to that because I didn't bring it up. So we do not some districts differentiate between the two. We're not a district that differentiates between the two. So really, we're looking at the non-certified teacher rate for that average. Did you just do that?
Yeah, it's in the average. So then we got like a maximum rate for the certified is 140, the maximum rate for the daily non-certified is 100.
So our proposal is not to differentiate between the two, to the extent that hasn't been our practice. We would add in additional administrative factors into getting subs, but we could then just focus on the daily non-certified.
So the strategy.
It goes for both of them, doesn't matter if you're certified or not.
So the strategy is to make the job more attractive, obviously, get a better selection of teachers, and still remain within a range that's supportable by the school.
Correct.
93 for the non-certified teacher.
I think something else to consider too, so we proposed, what did we say, 95, to go to 95. If you wanted to go higher, let's say we're proposing 100, if that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to have it where it was something we weren't coming back every single year because it's something that you want to be able to consistently bump over the number of years. But I don't know the last time that it has been adjusted.
I want to say we,
not in recent years.
I want to say we increased the sub rates maybe 2011, 2012 when Joe first started. It was a long time ago, and at that point, I think we did a lot of things. We adjusted the long-term rate as well, as opposed to just automatically paying bachelor step one. Like I said, in this case, I agree we don't want to do this every single year, but because we're making a change mid-year, I wouldn't want to go much higher than this in this current fiscal year. We can always address it again, over the summer or fall, based on what we see as far as reaction. But it's hard to tell, because like I said, I think the biggest cause that we're not getting subs is not necessarily pay, it's this whole pandemic and who wants to be in school right now. So I think we got to hopefully get through this and then sort of reevaluate.
Do we have a sense as to when the last time a lot of these comparison districts have shifted their pay? Like, if we shift this up, are they all of a sudden going to do the same thing and we're back at the bottom again? Do we have a sense?
No, we didn't ask that question. All it was pulling from this year's data of where they were at.
Any questions, concerns from the committee?
No. What question, the budget impact? I mean, it's basically covered within the budget we currently have.
Yeah, the sublines are, some sublines go over, some go under. It just depends on which building has the most maternities in every given year, because that's really what drives the sub rates up, or the sub costs up, I should say. But I think we're fine for this year based on what we're seeing, mostly because we're not getting that many subs, so we're not spending a lot of money right now. So I don't think it's going to have a huge impact.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So do you need a motion?
Sure do.
I'd like to make a motion to increase the substitute teacher and nurse pay for the coming year to $95 a day for substitute teacher's daily rate and a nurse sub rate, monthly rate of $120.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you for that. And I also want to thank one of our substitutes came forward with this request for us to take a look at it, provided us with some initial data, which spurred us on to really take a look at it. Also, I want to thank the leadership team. They've been really advocating for a change. So it took kind of the combination for us to really pull out the list, take a look, and see where we're at. And I was surprised that we were actually on the bottom of that. So that's great. Thank you very much.
How frequently are we struggling with not having a substitute?
That's
Okay.
pretty much,
That answers my question right there.
Daily?
Yeah.
yeah, it's every day,
Yeah.
every school.
Yeah.
For the last number of years, really, but it's really heightened this year, just like in every other school district that is out there is facing this as well. So our principals and sub coordinators have been really creative and doing the best that they can, but it's been a challenge, certainly, a lot more than it ever has been.
Is there something more we can be doing to market our schools as being more attractive for substitute teachers? Or?
Yeah, so a few things that we can do. There's actually, it just came out in the commissioner's memo this past week on trying to fill jobs. And it's not necessarily for substitutes, although maybe that will come into play, where they recognize it's an issue across the whole state. So they're getting survey info and they're working, I can't remember the name of it, I don't have it handy, but another database and company to help solve some of the staffing problems. So all we have to do is submit in that survey, what are the positions that are still open in our district. Another piece I would imagine is substitute that aspect of it as well. I think something else to look into is always just advertising constantly. So we always repost, we put it up there, but through the website, like through social media too, and adding in other avenues for that. And hopefully maybe with the pay change, maybe that could have been a factor for some. I know I used to do the subs when I was a building administrator, and a lot of people, if you develop the relationships, which we do here, they want to work for you because you have these strong relationships. But if I'm going to make this much more money in this other school district, that kind of draws you away with time. So this can really be helpful when you have the combination of the two. So annually in the fall, I want to just share out just our details of the home instruction annual report. Per our policy, which I've linked in there, IHEG, we provide a report which details all of the children in Mendon-Upton, age 16 years or younger, who are receiving home instruction. I want to thank Lauren Sanacando, who manages the bulk of the collection of these program plans and reaches out, communicates, and brings it back and brings it forward for my review from our families annually. For this year, we have 39 students, and they're from 18 families, so you find it's a number, we'll have a number of children from one family involved in the home instruction who have home instruction programs. And this is down from 10 students from the previous year, which was our highest that we've had in the last 4 years or so, with 49 students last year. And then I went back a couple years, we had 23 students and then 29 students, which I think is kind of the average. If I were to cycle back a couple more years, it tends to be in that, let's say 25 to 30 range. So we're still a little bit on the higher end compared to some previous years. But I think as a result of parents don't necessarily share all the time, which is fine, but we know because of COVID, there are more families who have kept their students. So linked to that, something we usually do is we share some updates related to enrollment. And again, I want to thank Liz Black. She completes all of our data management and just completed the October 1st data certification of our student data to DESE. And that occurs a little bit towards the end of October when that's complete and we get that information. So what I did is I pulled together the enrollment by grade as of October 1st of 2021. And then I went back going to the DESE site just to pull the March data, which is on the site. So you can kind of have a comparison between the two. And then a couple highlights I just wanted to bring forward for you. even since this information that I'll be sharing, and I'm gonna put it up here in 1 second here. We've already had a large increase for us in enrollment just in the past couple of weeks. We've had a number of families coming in. So what we do for tracking is that we're in constant communication with the buildings and with our office. So we're keeping track of students that are coming and going through our office, and we monitor that throughout the year. Give me 1 second. We'll check this up for us. All right, so for enrollment by grade from March 1st, 2021, a couple of things to note, and I don't dive into class sizes or anything like that. This is just high-level enrollment data for some larger comparisons. I would draw your attention to the bottom row, the district by grade, just to get a sense, so you have a sense of, as of last March, what our grade level numbers in enrollment were. You go all the way to the right, where it's the total. We had about 2,166 students in the district in March. Now, when I flip to the next one, and you have this, you kind of toggle back and forth, you can see that we have a few students from last year with 2,141 right now. And you'll note a couple things. Let's see. I can highlight.
Would you mind sharing your screen on Zoom as well? That's all right, sorry.
So a few things that I noticed and wanted to share additionally with the data. So we're only down about 25 students this year, and that is increasing in the last couple of weeks as new families have moved in. Something to note, you'll see that Memorial Elementary School has about 147 more students than Fluff, just 30 more than last March, with new students from the past 2 weeks. So they're down. It's kind of remarkable that we're approaching about 500. I don't know if we're over 500 yet.
I think after Thanksgiving.
After Thanksgiving, we expect to be at 500 students at Memorial Elementary, which is, if we were to, I didn't pull the data, but we've always been closer between the two, but we've really been seeing this growth at Memorial over the last number of years. Something else that stands out and was noted in the report, so I kind of looked into it, the largest grade change in percentage, they give us data if it's more than 20% of grade change, was in grade 9. So our students, we had 208 students in the 8th grade last year, about 160 entered 9th grade at NETMA. I checked the numbers to PBT and they were similar both years. One was about 30, 139, so that was similar. But we had an increase of about 10 for the private school enrollment, so it was that increase of about 10 more students to private schools, which is what needed, so it's that 40% student difference. English learner population, we're definitely going to come forward with more details related to this, but part of the report that we send out, it identifies various subgroups as well. And so, yeah, and looking through the data that Liz Black had shared, let's see, we have 55 English learners this year in district, 12 who recently arrived from the US. If you go back, we'll do the overall trend at some point, but if you go back all the way just to 2015, we had 24 English learners, 3 recently arriving in 2019, 34
2020 47, now we're up to 55, and that is increasing currently right now as well. And so this is definitely a need that I had already identified. It was one of the pieces we put into a request into that ESSER grant to see if we can address this need this year. We're still waiting on approval or any feedback from that grant. So, but this is definitely a high area. Students to have 2 English language teachers is not enough. We used to have 2 and we had 25. So I just want to throw that out there as well. Something else that we noted, if you look to, you can see it. If you look here with kindergarten, 136, last March. You'll note we're back up to 160 there, which is closer to the number that we typically have, right? But just that obviously speaks to many that kept their students home last year for various reasons. So that was a noticeable jump as well.
It's like you had 8th grade in high school last year.
Yeah.
No, not in October and
Previous. Yep.
Okay.
March.
March one? Oh, yeah. Yeah. So that should be right there. Thank you. All right. I'm gonna jump out of that. Now, if we have any questions, but we'll continue to keep you updated as enrollment shifts. I'll give you an update if there's something significant that kind of jumps out, or we have a certain growth at a school or grade level, over the course of the year, we'll just keep you updated. So it's certified October 1, certified March 1, and that data is what, when you go to the DESE website, that's the data that you end up seeing up there, is what just got certified. So we keep you in the loop on that.
Or you might hit upon it, but if you look at last year in March, we had 208 kids in 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
It became 160 this year. So it's like a 23% drop. Is that normal going into high school with private school, technical school? It seems like a bigger drop than I was expecting.
Yeah, so the last, I didn't do the percentage, but the last couple of years of those students, 39 of them are graded in the last couple of years of 2018, which is always helpful when it's a little consistent.
Yeah.
What throws us off, if that goes really up, if it goes down, then it helps us out a little bit here. But, consistency, I would say we tend to have somewhere there, just right across the street, so it's an option. But in addition to that, I will say there were a couple, when I looked at the private school data, there were a couple of private schools that had more students this year than they have had in the past. Why? I don't know the answer to the why. It's something I think, we'll just look into. It could just be that that's the year, there are reasons that they chose to purchase that. And it can be a pretty big swing when you have, it's 10 students in that school.
might be good to look at just the macro trends across the last 5 or 6 years in these areas, there, what you're saying. Because it does fluctuate. I mean, I know we had, back in 2015, there was a spike in there, but that I'll call it, got corrected pretty quickly. Where it really was an issue was back in 10 or 11. We had mass exodus across the street, but then that settled back down. But it'd just be interesting to look at that in terms of these numbers that are there. I think the other question that I have would be one where we look at the student population in each school. What are we doing about redistribution of resources? Don't necessarily need to answer it right now, but it's something I think we can probably be talking about as we look at kind of forward, kind of looking at things like that. So
I agree, and those are some of the conversations that we'll be having as a leadership team, and we're starting just when we're looking at the resources we currently have, our priorities for our school across the district, and ways that, maybe there's a different way to apply staffing if there's needs in certain buildings greater than others. But we continue to have those conversations as well.
It also looks like we're We have recovered roughly 10 students since March 1st. Across the board, it looks like. So it does look like there's some return to some returning people, some returning students.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to the last item. We have asked Jay if he could maybe give us an update on some of the facility projects and upcoming projects that are taking place this year. Give a little bit more background information. I provided you a list there, but to give you some more info.
Moving up to the grown-up tables. All right, as you know, every year I come tell you about various things that we have with facilities that we have problems with. Every year it's different, every year it's interesting things, although the number one issue in this school is the boiler. The last time we had a problem with the boiler was, I think, this morning. It's an ongoing issue that we, as you know, we've hired somebody to do design specs. It's going out to bid on Wednesday. We expect quotes back by the 15th of December, so we should have an idea then of what kind of cost we're looking at to roll structures to the schools out in the summer. And hopefully have it done before school opens in the fall. There'll probably be some punch list items and clean stuff. The boilers are old. Today's issue was, believe it or not, the buildings were too hot because the boilers were running full steam because there was a motor switch that just got jammed stuck and it just made the heat just come out. Time, the only way we can correct it is to shut the boilers off for a period of time. The other issue we do have in this building that's not on this list is it's called the computer management system. The system that was here was put in 1997 when they went to school. Parts are not available anymore. It's an obsolete pneumatic system. We did submit through our state rep for hopefully a state earmark to potentially upgrade that as well. We'll find out about sometime, hopefully, probably after the first of the year. The hot water tank here has been leaking, and there's things that are just not firing right. It was a hot water tank that I believe was installed through a grant from National Grid in about 2004. So I think we got our money's worth. I believe the tank is in, so that the tank physically is not installed. We received it. So that will be getting done in the near future. The cost for that project is $30,520. That will be coming out of the building maintenance account here at Mendon-Upton. We've still got about $62,000 left, so it's a fairly major hit, but again, you gotta have hot water in the building. The clock tower, you all know about the clock tower up at the top here. We don't know what happened, but the whole facade completely broke. We don't know what the cause of it was, but it is an insurance claim. It took us probably 6 months to find a company that would actually come and work on the clock tower. We did finally get somebody. We got a quote. The cost of that is $27,244. That's going to be an insurance claim, so that will be covered. So that's what's going on at this building here. There are still other issues that are not of the magnitude of these that we deal with on a daily basis.
So quick question on the boiler replacement.
Yes.
So you talked about the pneumatic control system. Is that part of the bid that's being put out? So that's a separate piece that we're going to.
Separate, yes. That's something else that we're going to have to address. If you remember, I came in front of the school committee back probably in April or May. I don't even remember when we talked about using our capital stabilization account to cover the cost of this. That is what we're doing. But we didn't have enough money to also address the pneumatic system. That's probably another $400,000 or $500,000 that will be submitted through the state. Pneumatics is an old-fashioned way of doing it. All you need is a little pinhole leak in one of those little hoses, and things don't work right. I think the teachers that are here, the students here, can tell you that sometimes rooms are freezing, the next day they're burning hot, and that's just the way it is. Although a lot of schools are like that. So that covers Mendon-Upton at this point. At Misco Hill, Dr. Cohn went out to the playground last spring to do some recess duty and discovered that a lot of the equipment there had broken and wasn't working, specifically the zip line, so we're taking care of that. The playground equipment, for those of you that have been around for a long time, was installed by the PTO when Misco Hill was renovated, but this building was built, so that was 1997, 1998. I remember being out there working on it because my kids were little at that time. That stuff has all been fixed as of this past weekend. Everything has been repaired. The cost is $10,416. That's coming out of the Fields and Grounds account at Misco Hill. We only have about 12,000 left, so that's gonna pretty much clean it out. And again, when we talk to the students, they spend a lot of time out there, you can't get broken equipment. I mean, some of the stuff becomes to a point where it's dangerous, so that had to be addressed. Sewer ejection pumps. This is an ongoing issue when you have a leach field that's uphill. For those of you that don't know, the leach field at Misco Hill School is in the outfield and left field of the baseball field. So it comes out of the school over by the boiler room, over by where the parent drop-off is. It goes to the back and it goes uphill all the way there. And you have to have pumps that pump all this stuff around. The daycare center toilet started backing up last week. And it turns out we have 2 pumps in there that, again, are 15 to 20 years old. And one of them, the motor is burned out. We're having them both replaced. We think it's going to be around 10,000, but we don't know for sure because we haven't gotten an official quote yet. That will come out of building and maintenance. And Misco, we've got about 76,000 left in that account, so hopefully that will be manageable. And then the enunciator panel, which is the brains behind the whole fire alarm system. So some of you, if you remember, you'll walk in Misco Field and you'll hear a high-pitched humming noise coming from the board off to the side. That's the problem. Not just the high pitch, but the alarms aren't working, the strobes aren't working. Sometimes it tells you that an alarm's going off in part of the building, but it isn't. So it has to get replaced. Again, we found when we took it apart that there was water damage inside of it, so it became an insurance claim, which is good for us because that's about an $87,000 repair as well. That's covered with insurance. They've already agreed on that. So that's Misco Hill. Again, I'm sure there's other things going on at Misco that are less expensive than these, but those are biggies. Memorial, the air conditioning unit in the media center stopped working, I want to say last April, May, something like that. It's taken us this long to actually get the replacement unit in. We got to get a crane to put it up on the roof. That part has happened, but it still hasn't been installed. Expect that to be hooked up and running in the next probably 2 to 4 weeks, and then I guess we'll find out in the spring. Hopefully we'll have AC up there again. Again, that's one of the few spaces at Memorial that is air conditioned. Believe it or not, other than water treatment, Fluff doesn't have any major issues today. But the big issue we're having at both Misco Hill and Fluff is water treatment. We tested above the limits for something called PFAS 6. We have submitted to DEP through our water treatment engineering and operating company. They submitted plans to replace all of that. DEP is still holding off, or is still looking at it and evaluating it, so they haven't given us an approval. We then have to order materials in order to get that installed. Cost that we're estimating for that is around $150,000 between the 2 schools. We don't really have enough in our current balances to cover that, so we're going to have to come up with other resources to pay for those bills when they come. But at this point, we're still waiting for the approval. Hopefully it'll come soon. But it's really in their hands right now, so they decide what they're going to do. Part of it is that it's a new issue that is, we just started treating or testing for this in the last year, so it's new to them as well as new to us.
So they lowered the standard as well.
Yes. I mean, the standard, to give you the perspective, the standard is 20 parts per trillion. We tested it Fluff, I want to say, at 22 parts per trillion, so we were just marginally, barely over, but over is over. Misco was higher, I don't know the exact number of Misco, it might have been like 28. But either way, it has to be addressed. So in the meantime, we'll be using bottled water in both schools. That's about it on the biggies. Ken and I meet every day, and every day is a new surprise for me. But those are the biggies that we're facing right now. Those are any questions that you have.
I'm just reading to sewer control pumps. The director is very alarming.
Sewer ejection pumps, you don't like that term? I use the term that Ken gives me for that. Quite honestly, in addition to the terms, I get pictures and everything, so I didn't bring the pictures, so be grateful for that. And that, things are moving along as they should, I guess. Okay?
Thanks, Jay.
Our comments?
Great, thank you. So next up for us then is the school committee subcommittee updates. I feel like a mouthful for some reason. School committee subcommittee updates, okay. So we have the superintendent search committee. So all of the committee members should have received a draft superintendent candidate profile for review. And then what we'll need to do tonight is to approve that so that we can move forward with our screening committee process. Has everybody had a chance to read through questions or comments? Our student representatives, have you all had a chance to take a look at the superintendent candidate candidates? Okay, probably figure out a way to share that with you guys so that you can participate in these discussions moving forward. For those who have had a chance to review it, are there any questions, concerns, changes?
I think I think a lot of people gave feedback to Vicki already.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she sent it out about 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
So I think she's taken that, from my review, she's incorporated that all in pretty well.
Yeah, that's what I noticed as well.
Just to review, this is incorporating all the feedback that we got from the entire district and all of the.
Correct. So
surveys
that
we've done.
took all the focus groups, they took all of the survey responses, they then consolidated that all together, building those components and pieces that were in there. They put some other best practice components in there as well. And they sent it out to us. That's what we received. Then that's what he asked for comments back. So we give them that. I know everybody has shared comments back with her, you know, kind of one-on-one, so that she then consolidated that into the document where so we can share that. And I think once we vote on it, it can be posted. They'll utilize how it'll get posted on the website.
And I'm sure if we have additional changes that are suggested, that we can talk through those and incorporate them if necessary. So I'd like to make a motion to accept the search committee's, what do we call this document?
Superintendent profile.
The superintendent profile document.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, our candidate profile is set then. And moving on to new business. We're going to hear from Lori Holloway about a field trip to the Amazon in 2022. Hello. Welcome.
That I am super passionate about. I am so thankful that I have a superintendent and a school committee and a principal that were willing to go on this crazy adventure with me in 2019 and send 80 of us to the Amazon. When we returned from that trip, we talked about what a phenomenal time we had had. And we talked about that the feedback that we got was so overwhelmingly positive that we wanted to run this trip every other year as a staple at Misco Hill for 7th and 8th graders. So this particular trip launched in March 2020, and then COVID happened. So we were originally scheduled for last April. We did not feel comfortable traveling at that time. So we talked about, Dr. Bruschuk and I talked about when we could possibly reschedule that. I also reached out to the group to see what their interest was, and we had settled on February of this coming school year. So just a little bit of information for you. So to date, our group is certainly not the size it was the first time we ran it, but it is truly no reflection on the experience that we had. It's just, these are the times that we're in right now. So our current group size is 3 Misco Hill chaperones, 4 adult travelers, and 12 student travelers. These student travelers are now in the 8th and 9th grade because of the postponement of the trip. We are 100% fully vaccinated, and we are hoping for your approval to go as planned in February. So I'm open to answering any questions you might have.
So where, Amazon's a big place, where are you going?
It is indeed a big place. We are flying into Quito, into Ecuador. We are spending some time sightseeing in Quito. We're getting to stand on the equator, and see the town and the city. We're shopping at Otavalo Marketplace. We are going to Tena. We're going over the highlands to like Thermal Springs. And then we are going into Baños, and we are taking dugout canoes to our hotel in the jungle. And I was looking back at a survey that I had given to participants last time, and they talked about how that was one of their favorite memories, was going around that bend in the river and seeing this like hotel, this thatched roof paradise in the jungle.
So is that all confined to Ecuador, or is it over?
It is all in Ecuador, yes.
So is the trip gonna be just 8th graders and 9th graders this year, or is it being open to 7th graders as well, or?
So the intent of the trip was to be run every other year for 7th and 8th graders. So at some point in time, every MISCO student would have the opportunity. Because of delay, it pushed our group to the following school year. So now our trip is made up of 8th and 9th graders. With your blessing and presuming this trip goes well again, I would like to launch the trip again, which would actually be running next April as well, April 2023, to sort of get us back on schedule. So that would be for current 6th and 7th graders.
Okay, any additional questions from the committee? Okay, then we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the trip as well.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Wonderful.
Thank you so much. We're very excited.
Pictures.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for leading these things forward.
You're welcome. I'm really passionate about it. I love it, and I'm very excited to have that opportunity to share it with the kids in the community.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Next on our agenda, we have the MOA for health and safety. So there's been work happening for about the last 2 months to develop a memorandum of agreement for the health and safety for the 2021-2022 school year. Marie, do you want to speak to that?
I'm happy to. First, I want to start off by thanking Margaret and working productively together. It was spaced out just because it was the beginning of the school year. You know, every few weeks we would come back together on it, and we were able to come together with this MOA that you have before you. There are a couple key provisions. Some are pretty standard that we're carrying over from last year. One is to follow the Massachusetts COVID-19 temporary emergency paid sick leave program, where staff members will receive up to 5 COVID leave days with appropriate documentation. Additionally, we developed a process where we can then also collect proof of COVID-19 vaccinations, so we can track our percentages of staff in the community, and then we'd be able to get a sense of that 80% mark as we go forward. We also added in some compensation for our nurses who are working extra hours on some of our weekends and vacations and holidays. This came to light right away, Labor Day weekend. It was the, that Friday and full on, we had a classroom of parents that had to be contacted, and we just want to make sure that we're compensating for that just in time type of work that they have to do. So the team was great and really productive collaborative conversations. Just took a little time to work through a few details, and they ratified it, I believe, last Friday, right? It was ratified, Shelley? Yeah, sorry. So it was ratified by the membership, and then we're just bringing it forward for you here to ratify it as well.
So again, we'll need a motion and a vote to ratify the MOA.
I'll make a motion to ratify the MOA.
Second. All in favor? Aye. MOA's been ratified. Everybody needs to hang out and sign that before they leave today, so no running out of meeting stuff. Okay, next up on the agenda, we have school improvement plans for Fluff Memorial. So we have our elementary principals with us tonight, Janice Gallagher and Lou Bell, here to speak to us about their plans.
Hello.
Welcome.
So first off, Wendy and I want to thank you were our pamphlets. This is what is going to be posted on our website, but it's a lot of words and things, so we're not really going to go through all of it, but this will be posted so families and community members and staff all know exactly what we're doing in detail. So one of the things I want to say is Wendy and I, we work together to formulate elementary school improvement goals. We feel like it's very important that we are on the same page and that our teachers and our students are all on the same page. So our children all go to MISCO at the middle school, and we want to make sure we have the same goals and expectations for them. So not only did we formulate our goals together, but this year, I've been in the district 26 years and we've never done this before, but we actually held a joint school council meeting. And what we did at that point is we shared our school improvement plan of what we drafted. It was a draft at that point, and we shared it with the two school councils together, and then took the feedback and input from them to spruce it up a little bit more. And I have to say, it was just wonderful having the joint school council, because we got to, meet parents from the other schools. We got to make some connections. Our staff got to see each other and community members. So it was really nice. And we do plan on doing a few more school councils together during the year. We'll do several separate, but there are things that we want to work on and see what we can do as two schools with the same goals. That was exciting. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Wendy to start with our first goal.
Yes, thank you. I love pictures, so. We have broken our school improvement plan up into 3 distinct goals, all falling under different areas of our strategic plan and objectives. Our first advances the district's strategic objective of social emotional learning, and it is written up about the 21-22 school year. We will develop and implement tiered support and intervention in order to promote the social, emotional, academic, and behavioral success of all students. So this goal on a larger scale promotes a school culture where all students get what they need when they need it. Our elementary player, strength-based digital learning platform at the elementary level in an effort to ensure that we have a solid understanding of and a pathway to develop each child's strengths. We can use the information from Thrively to at all students. While we're still in the early stages of implementation, we've really just administered the strengths assessment and are excited to see how we can begin to help our students, even at the young ages, tap into their interests and find out what they're excited. The whole child is by actively engaging our faculty in learning that's focused on developing a strong multi-tiered system of supports. You can see that that third visual up on the top is a picture of the MTSS model, which basically is designed to develop a really strong system within not just a school, but within a district for supporting all students, both socially, emotionally, academically, and behaviorally. So we are spending time with our faculties, TSS, and the teachers will be educated on strategic intervention and progress. That upper left-hand corner, it's a picture of a giving positive office referrals so that they're learning that a trip to the principal's office isn't always a bad thing. On the bottom, we have a picture of one of our teachers, actually it's our academic tutor, teaching behavioral expectations in the cafeteria. There's pictures of small group of teaching kids social and emotional strategies. And then that bottom picture, the left, is our faculty at Memorial engaging in learning more about the MTSS model. Do you want to share anything about some of the pictures?
The one next to it, the brick, I am unique, that's one of our Thrively lessons. So, and the children had to describe why they're unique. And once they did the activity, we read a story about, being different and accepting others. And then they shared it out with the class. So it's really nice because it also builds that communication. And when they're talking about themselves, it's something they know very well, they feel very confident about. And the picture on the right is our visit to the Taft Library, and I think socially and emotionally, it was just a wonderful, wonderful trip to begin some normalcy of leaving the building. And Andrew Jenrick and Tara Windsor, they were incredibly wonderful because we missed our field trip last year for first grade, so they opened it up this year to second grade. So every day we've had a different class, either first or second going down there, and it was just a wonderful experience. Kids getting their first library card, seeing the inside of a library. It's amazing how many children have not been in and now are excited to go in. Other children are like, I've been here with my mom or my dad, but it was just, they came back so happy and they were so well behaved, and it was just wonderful. Actually, Dr. Kirkpatrick, you walked down with me one day down there as well, so it was just.
Move on to the next slide.
Okay. So our next goal is throughout the 2021-22 school year, in order to increase student engagement, academic achievement, and confidence in math, all K-4 teachers will fully implement the elementary school Bridges math program and the ST math application. Go through some of the pictures in a moment. But basically, as you know, we did adopt a new math program this year, and it's a wonderful program. But with any new program, it takes a while to learn. And usually we would have a little bit of professional development during the summer, like in August, but with the uncertainty of our staff, who was coming back, with the budget, we really didn't know, we couldn't do the planning, and also with COVID cases, we were unable to do it. Fortunately, Dr. Cohen thought ahead, and she planned the first day of PD for the teachers, so when they got to see it, they actually got to delve into it, and that was extremely appreciative. And so this is a top goal for Wendy and I this year, because there's a lot to learn. It's a good program, but there's a lot of reading for the teachers to do ahead of time. There's not a lot of workbook pages. It's a lot of problem solving, talk about your thinking. So the teacher will teach a little bit, and then the kids will go into discussions and they'll talk. There's math isn't just like a math. It's not like, oh, we're doing reading, we're doing writing, we're doing math now. It's woven into the curriculum, it's woven into the day. So they have number corners in the morning. It's like calendar with routines and reinforces the skills we're being taught. And they have a lot of workplaces that they have to set up so that kids are working. You'll see the kids are working with partners on centers, and again, reinforcing the skills that they've been learning. And a lot of kids taking charge of their own learning and development and differentiation. But for the teachers, it's difficult because this is the first year they've done it. So when they're teaching and they're trying to go through their lessons, it's like, am I teaching this? Am I introducing it? Am I reintroducing it? Am I developing, are they mastering this? Are we enhancing the curriculum? Hasn't never been addressed before. So there's so many things they have to go and find out how in depth they're doing it. It's going to be much easier next year because they're going to say, okay, my third grade class, they had this in second grade. They've been exposed to this type of learning. They're used to the workplaces, but they're explaining everything. So what we want to make sure that we do is that we find the time to continue offering the PD that they need for the bridges. But even more importantly, is we need to find the time to make sure the teachers can work together So like every 6 weeks, there's a new unit, and there's so much materials. There's a lot of visual models in this program for the kids. So with the visual models, there's a lot of creating of materials. So we want to make sure that we give the teachers the time and the resources to create these, and not have it be a cumbersome thing that they're taking away from their reading or writing or science or social studies or emotional and social learning. They have a lot to do. So what Wendy and I have embedded into our daily schedules is they do have some common planning time, and they do have a data block every week so that they can look at the data, they can, try to assess where the kids are at and where they need to be. And hopefully we get more subs so that we can create a little bit more flexibility if we need some PD for special grade levels. So that's like our top priority for the bridges, is to give them the time and the resources, knowing that next year is going to be a lot easier because now they're going to have every calendar, every month, their number calendar, their corners are going to be set up, their workplaces will be set up, but it's a lot of work, but we know that games are at the heart of the program, and we're loving what we see so far, and it's just, we're here to support. So we're very fortunate with that. The other part of our math that we have added this year is the ST math. I know that Wendy had brought up a couple of the boys who did a great job explaining Gigi. You'll see Gigi in both corners. Gigi is our little ST math mascot. And the children you'll see interacting with their iPads with Gigi. These are math problems that the kids will do independently. They can work with someone else. I saw that in classes today, but usually the kids are working independently. It's at their own pace. It's 100% they have to reach mastery, so it means they have to solve all the problems before they can move on. And what they're trying to do is get Gigi across the bridge. So the more puzzles they get, the further across that Gigi goes. And with this, most of the teachers have taken this on as one of their student learning goals. And for K and 1, they have to do at least 60 minutes a week on the iPad. And grades 2, 3, and 4, it's 90 minutes. So again, it's a commitment, and we're working with them to find out how we can embed this into the curriculum without taking something else away. We've been very fortunate that our rep, Lauren Chuck, she came to our first faculty meeting. Wendy and I actually had our first faculty meeting together through Zoom, so that Lauren Chuck could explain the ST math and the expectations and how the teachers could help the students. And we did that back in September, so everybody started on the same page. Wendy and I meet with her. We've met with her a few times. We're in very close contact with her, so she can help us know how we can help our teachers. And we have our math curriculum assistants also working alongside us on this. And the rep is going to be going to different grade levels during their data blocks to see what they need and to help them get organized and looking at data. So it's exciting, but again, it's a lot of planning and a lot of overseeing and encouragement. But as you can see with the pictures, we have a lot of pictures of just the number corners. And if you look at the picture in the right-hand corner, that's a picture of a third grade student who's actually instructing the whole class on the ST math. It's just wonderful, getting up there in front of everybody, explaining some of the problems that he's done. And we do a lot of that at our schools where the kids are, teaching the kids. You learn best from peers, right? Our teachers are fabulous. They can say it, but sometimes a student explains it and all of a sudden they get it like that. So, but as you can see, there's a lot more interactive and gaming activities. Kids don't even realize they're learning. They think they're just having fun.
I love a good competition, and I learned from Dave Quinn the other day that Memorial and Fluff elementary schools are in line to be the top performers in the state on ST Math this year. We're well on track. I just looked at our latest numbers. We get a report every Monday morning from Lauren. She sends us this nice printout of how many minutes each. Our school goal was to get 70% of the way through the program in the year. And as of yesterday, all 5 of our grade levels are at 40%.
Which is huge.
And I think Fluff is very similar. So
And if I could add to that data, that's out of about 260 schools, so we're top on track when they said that. Yeah, so it's
Helps, yeah.
that costume, well worth every
That
penny.
penguin.
All right, you can move. And our final goal in our school improvement plan is to take a closer look at the district's portrait of a learner and advance the competencies at the elementary level to allow all of our learners to thrive. So we'll be taking a closer look at these competencies throughout. I had a nice conversation the other day about really thinking about how we might determine benchmarks at the elementary level for success, so that like to be a mindful learner as a 4th grader leaving the elementary schools and heading to MISCO. What might it look like to be an inspired innovator? So we're going to be doing some work on that this year. We will also be administering both the Panorama SEL assessment, and we've already administered the Thrively Strengths assessment. That matches the needs of our learners. Really, it's just helping us to get a better sense of who they are and helping our students to have a better sense of who they are even at really young ages. Additionally, we plan to implement 2 inspired learning days. We are looking on the screen. We've highlighted some of the ways in which we're working towards the 6 competencies. We're providing students with opportunities to build, construct, design, explore everyday challenges within the school day as well as with the world around them. And to helping make our world a better place through our all school in advisory groups. So if we look at some of the pictures, the ones from, I'll talk about the ones from about 30 kids who submitted an application to join the group, and knowing my limits on class size, I capped it at 25 this year, which was really hard, but we met for the first time. They hope to make a difference in our school and make positive change. The 3rd picture down on the bottom is our school counselor, Kathy Gurton, teaching the zones of regulation. She taught the same lesson to every classroom during their library time a couple of weeks ago. So all of the students are getting consistent instruction in self-regulation, which is really impactful for them. And then our classroom teachers were able to carry that over into their classrooms. The third picture and on the top is a follow-up activity from an all-school read. We read a story that was titled I Promise by LeBron James, and it talked about ways that you can make a difference in your world, things that you can do, simple things. And then all of the students wrote down something in their classroom on a card and just left it on their desk as a reminder for something that they can do that would make a positive difference in the world. You want to speak about yours?
Sure. And in the bottom pictures, it's I just collaborating and working with the math manipulatives. On the right was a science experiment where they were creating their fingers and how it worked, and it was pretty amazing. That was a 4th grade one, and they just couldn't wait to show me the different projects and how it worked. I thought that was great. In the upper right-hand corner, for Halloween, we were able to have our Halloween parade, which was so exciting. We did it outside. It actually worked out. I think I'll always do it outside. I used to do it in the gym. Having them go around the school, the parents spread out, it was just a wonderful, the kids got to walk longer. The parents were out there, they got the fresh air, and when they came in, they were doing different activities. So a lot of teachers took advantage of pumpkins. We did a lot of measurement. This was kindergarten, and they did a lot of experiments with it. One was they, one you usually do with the soda pops, but they had a pumpkin and they put the lid on it, and it was just amazing. We went up into the science room, and they were making their predictions of what was going to happen. And then after it exploded, one of the kids goes, what if we put the cover on it like a hat? And they kept coming up with different things they wanted to try. And it was just awesome seeing them up in the science room again and being so excited about, experiments. In the left is a first grade class. They've been working on this map. It's a map of the community, and every child, they're reading stories in their wonders. So they took the mapping skills and the wonders and working together, being creative, and the conversations the kids were having and who was going to do what, and why they added something and what else they could add to it. It was just, they took charge of it. The teacher was like, this is the project, and she was just walking around, checking on them, facilitating, and it's just what you dream about when you go in a classroom. All kids involved, working with different kids, getting excited about learning. So we're going to focus more on what else we can do. In the elementary level, I think pretty much every day in kindergarten covers all of the learner every single day. So it's been fun.
So what? Anybody else?
Yeah, so do you remember when the last Inspired Learning Day was?
Well, it's funny you say that. So we were supposed to have it in March of 2020, and we had it all planned, ready to go. Every center was set up, and that was canceled, so it was the year before.
How about that?
Yeah.
So this is a long time.
Yeah. So if any of you want to join us at the elementary school and come in and share a talent or a passion, or feel free.
So what exists, it says throughout 2021, the goal one is to develop and implement the peer-supported intervention. What exists today in place of that? In other words, what does this replace?
It's not really replacing anything. I think it's an ongoing process of trying to build a really strong system within the school where we're making sure that we're supporting each child's individual needs. So it's really strengthening, I think, the systems that we have in place, thinking about, when a child struggles, what's our response, making sure that all of our, curriculum is high quality, making sure that our instructional strategies are best practice and are inclusive of all students. So it's really taking a closer look at what we're doing and then finding ways to shore things, better processes and protocols for things that aren't working well.
And that's where the Thrively program and the panorama piece will come into play to help.
Yeah, and
those decisions more data driven.
And I think the Thrively piece is a really interesting, I think it will evolve into a really positive piece for the elementary level. I think when we first looked at it to start this year, we were looking at the strengths assessment, which we all gave, but then we also started looking at all of these social emotional learning modules for students. And as we started trying them out, we realized that maybe that wasn't the best use of Thrively for elementary age kids, because what we were finding is the kids were plugging in to listen to a read aloud instead of having their teacher read it to them. And that's where that social emotional teaching really comes in. So as we've been, kind of looking at it, we're thinking about how might we use it to allow kids to more explore things that they're interested in. So creating modules based on student interests. So I think Thrively is going to be a neat addition. We're just kind of working through how it best fits at the elementary level right now.
You wrote in here, really good action, child study process expanded to meet the needs of all learners. What specifically does that mean? Do you have anything in mind, or is it a general improvement overall, or what was that?
Yeah, it's really making sure that we're utilizing data-driven. We're one of my awesome teachers said something the other day about, the students aren't just data, and it's true, but everything that we look at with a child is data. Even their behaviors is data. So really thinking about, what it is that the child's struggling with, looking at what we've done to try to support the child, and then looking at how they respond to that intervention or whatever strategy we've put in place.
And not so much, you can't fix everything. So a lot of times in the past, you come in and you say, oh, this child needs this, this, and this. But we need to focus on one area. Look at what they're good at, be happy with that, but then find the area that they need. What is the skill? Focus on that. Give them everything they need, extra supports, and see if they can make the advancement. If they can make the advancement, then we're on the right track. We're doing the right thing. But we can't fix everything right away. And years ago, it used to be more academically, where now we're focused on behavior, social and emotional. So we're really putting in the social and emotional piece, because if a child isn't ready socially and emotionally, they can't access the curriculum. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're below grade level, they're not catching on in, writing, it could be something else there. So we have to look at that, and we have to gather that data. So we just want to make sure all the teachers are educated on what they should be looking for when they bring it to the child's study team. And then we can help them with suggestions and ideas to go forward.
Okay, I see.
And add one more feature to that. If you go to the next actions tab about the DCAP, that's a great tool that can be used at a child study process as well. And so with that revision of the DCAP, because we revise it every 4 years and what we're going to add into it, it almost
So the question, how are we gonna measure the impact of this?
Of which?
All of these things. I mean, when I look at this, so if you talk about this, we'll develop, implement tiered support and intervention to promote these things. There's obviously a baseline, something
So one of
that
the
we're
things.
looking to affect.
That's a really good question, because it's something that we're always thinking about,
Yeah.
and I think about, we start this year off with, we administer so many baseline assessments on students, and then, throughout the course of the year, we have students who are not responding to instruction in the classroom. We're tracking those kids really carefully. I think for me, a measure of success that, everything that we're doing here is working, is we're seeing more kids find success. And we talk about within that multi-tiered system of support, there's a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3.
Yeah.
Tier 1 is what we give all students. Tier 2 is what some students need, but they don't always need it, they just need it sometimes. And then tier 3 is even more intensive support, that we're seeing more kids moving into tier 2, but then out. And they don't need it long term, because we're approaching everything with a problem solving mindset, and we're seeing more kids have success in the classroom, not just academically, but all around.
I mean, I see like the investment in Thrively, the investment in things. I mean, obviously, we're trying to derive a one-to-one relationship. And I'm not saying that we necessarily need to say for each individual student where they're going, but holistically, how are we looking to measure that impact? I think what you just said is a great thing. It's also similar, I guess, I would say, we think we've invested all this money now in a new math program. And it's great that we're making such incredible progress in the utilization. That's what you really kind of talked about in terms of we're trying to get 70% of them through, we're trying to get so many tests done. But there's an ultimate goal, I would imagine, around what is the impact of that program. Like, we're trying to boost our math proficiency, we're trying to, and that's, I guess, what I'm asking about, when do we see, and I guess, and if you ask this question at the high school level, I guess could ask it there too, but it's kind of that holistic, what does that measurement system look like to measure the impact along the way?
I think one of the things that, and we will be tracking data in that, but I think one of the things we're seeing now, even just in the beginning months, is the confidence level in the children enjoying math. And when you feel like you're enjoying math and you see it, and the kids can't wait to do the workplaces, and they can't wait to, they're yelling when they finish their problems, and they're cheering each other on, and they've got that confidence level, Because for years, you didn't have kids going, I can't wait to go do math, you know, they like to read a good book, but you very seldom saw it. We're hearing so many kids like, I love math. And so I think that once they love something, they start feeling confident about it, we're gonna see them, the growth go even further.
I think looking like aspirationally, you're looking to build expert learners. You know, kids who have all of those portrait of a learner competencies, but you see it because they're independently, like engagement isn't just they're doing something, they're like fully into it and loving it. And I think that will be a true marker of success with a lot of these things are, you know, walking into a to, you know, guide everything they're doing.
Measuring that we're ranking so high within, what are they measuring? Participation rates?
Problem
The
solving.
problem solving,
That,
So,
so
and
the
they have
question
to
is,
have
are we
100%
getting
accuracy.
more kids to participate in math than we did even 6
Absolutely.
months ago?
absolutely.
That's a huge.
And their excitement, I honestly. On a Monday afternoon when we're handing out the Golden Gigi Awards and Gigi's walking through, the kids are like, and then they're like immediately getting back on their iPads and trying to solve the next puzzle.
So there's all those things that we can observe and make us feel evidence that the kids are more engaged, and there's more kids engaged in math.
And you still have in the math, you still have the pre-assessments, the post-assessments, you're still having the informal observations, you're still having the tests, so you have the test scores. But to us, it's more the observational and the thinking and the talking and the communication that these kids are having with their peers that they didn't have, you know, years ago. And the quiet child that now all of a sudden is like, my voice counts because I'm with Wendy right now, but then tomorrow I'm going to be with Phil and I have to have a voice and say it. So to hear them speak up, and if they don't get it, it's okay, because then somebody else will say, oh, I didn't think of it that way, but how I did it was this way. And now they're realizing there's different ways to solve different problems. Sometimes there's no right or wrong, right? You have a different viewpoint. That's life, right? As you get older, we all get to a problem, we solve it in a different way. So if we can teach them those skills.
I'm just trying, because I see what Phil's point is. There are empirical measurements that we can take that can not only justify our point for the expenditure, right? But justify our point about the efficiency of learning. So we're actually spending less money to get the same amount of material across to kids in a more efficient way, more effectively. That's a very important thing to say. So if we have empirical measurements like test scores, number of kids engaged, those are powerful statements to make. Or even the NT, ST math, scoring high on whatever measurement, I don't even understand. But just to be able to say those things is a gigantic thing. It's for communication out to the public.
Yeah, I'm not just saying that it all boils down to like black and white measurement. Sure. But it's kind of like, what is that bench, if we think about it just generally to put this thing in place, what are we really trying to affect? So we're trying to affect engagement. We're trying to affect performance. We're trying to affect, we call it love of the subject, okay? So there are different ways of measuring that from the start to the finish through the year, so to speak. So as we put these new approaches and pieces in, how are we seeing that change happen? How are we, I'll use the term measuring change. Because sometimes it is a subjective measurement. It's like, I don't know, you're not really gonna get, I'll call it maybe first graders to fill out like a survey per se, how much they love it, but at the same point, it's like, how do we demonstrate that piece? And I think it's not just something at the elementary school level, it's across all of the levels and the areas that we're looking at. But it just changed.
I can speak to it too. So the end all be all, it's one measurement system and benchmarking system that in addition to the observation. The day-to-day assessments that we're doing in the classroom. And it's really bringing the teachers together to have the full picture as well. And working together district-wide to see, okay, what are some marks that, we started to present last year. So we have the academic piece, but we also have panorama that we only had done, and we were only focused to begin with the well-being surveys that we had last year and that alignment to that CASEL competencies. If we're looking for that's what we want to add in some of the qualitative and quantitative pieces to it. So to your point, it's absolutely all comes together. It depends on what level of data we're seeking and looking for.
I would be really happy to tell that story.
Yeah.
We can do it.
Well, I think it will be really neat to see because we use the iReady assessments 3 times a year and it tracks, the students' growth over the year and it gives them like a goal to meet, which would equate to like 1 year's growth. But then it also gives them a stretch goal, which grows them more than a year. And I'll be interested to see how our students progress, even in the mid-year point when we give the assessments in January.
Yep, great.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see those pieces in place, whether it's the iReady or the Thrive-Lite, and those are very directed towards, we'll call it, that personalized learning approach now. So now we know more about that individual student than we probably ever knew before.
Exactly, we sure did.
And so teachers and administrative people can actually use that data in which to make sure we're driving, I'll call it, a personalized learning agenda. And then the other part of that is then, but if you raise that up a level, and I'll call it population level, are we seeing the broad group population impact improvements that that's doing? So that's all I'm saying.
And those are all good points, and those are things we're gonna be looking at, and we're excited about having all these pieces in place and having this data and knowing how we can differentiate for different children so that we can help them succeed. But it's all a culmination of all of that. So we're interested in seeing how it goes forward too.
Oh, it's great. Thank you.
So that data is not part of the school improvement plan. That's
Yeah, so, and just part of the work. So, it may not be, some things we're
that. So even though we'll do a lot of this at our faculty meetings, in our grade level meetings, our data blocks, a lot of the teachers have taken this on as a personal student learning goal. So they will show us the growth in the data, and we'll work with them on that.
Thank you for all
Yeah, that's
those
always the
answers.
work,
I needed that kind of information to flesh this out a little bit, so
Sure.
thank you very much.
Thank you for listening and for the
Thanks
ideas.
for having us.
Right away, I have one more.
Okay.
Sorry, they're grilling you about data numbers. I want to ask a little bit about impact on staff. Just because in my personal experience with the growth and development of the child study process, that changes how staff expectation happens in the building. There's an increased pressure on certain staff to provide certain intervention services, and things tend to shift. And on top of a lot of the other new things, it sounds like the staff is learning to implement this year. I'm just curious to know.
I think that's a really good point, Carrie. I think, the whole, you're very familiar with MTSS, I assume, and this whole idea that, tier 1 doesn't, and tier 2 can be done by the classroom teacher. I think one of the things that we're trying really hard to do is balance that. We have some really great support staff, and we're trying to build a team. So our child study team works together to support, a classroom teacher if they have a student or a group of students who are in need of intervention. really developing a way for our reading specialists and our academic tutor and our Title I tutors and our instructional coach and special ed teachers to really work together to support the classroom teacher to best support that student. So that really the goal is that the classroom teachers never feel alone in working with a child. That said, I will say that, you know, and part of it, I think too, is, you know, change in leadership and change in, you know, what the way I have always done things. And I think it's been a little bit of a shift to that, you know, the idea that some of that intervention work is being put on the classroom teacher. My hope is that it helps them to become more confident in what they can do because they are so good at what they do, and gives them the confidence that they can reach every learner in their classroom. But kind of focusing on a team approach is the way that we're trying to help use that, because all of this, everything we presented today is a lot on the classroom teachers. The elementary teachers teach so much throughout the day. They have the same group of kids in front of them all day. So it's a different environment, I think, than a middle and a high school where, you know, you're changing kids every hour and
they're teaching, you know, 6 subjects, and I'm just excited because I hired my reading specialist. I finally found a great reading specialist, so she started today, so my teachers are real excited. I got to take her around and show her, so we're really excited that she'll be able to go in and work with some of these kids and with teachers, so all positive today.
And that was sort of where my question was coming from too, is that we tend to see more of a need for folks who can provide the kind of expertise necessary for tier 3.
And I think we're fortunate to have really great people in the schools to support our classroom
And
teachers.
I think it's difficult right now only because we're coming back from COVID and we're trying to catch where the kids are at. You know, some kids who they're not at the level that we want, and we understand that. But if we have the support in place, we're going to get them there. Some kids just didn't have access to it, you know, depending on what happened last year in their lives. So I think a lot of this, like the iReady and iReady for the math, it's just been incredible for us to get a good baseline of what the kids are at. So I feel like the teachers have a good handle on the kids, but it's the social and emotional, it's the reading, it's the writing, it's the math, it's a lot on them. We both have wonderful staff, so they're working hard. That's why we have to focus. Our goal has to be to give them the resources and the time and let them know that we're there to support them and we're going to walk this walk with them. So.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the improvement plan, school improvement plan.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
The improvement plan has been approved. And we won't love it. Okay, other matters not anticipated by the committee within 48 hours of the posted meeting. None. Okay, one correspondence. We have none to share. And then final item on our agenda would be future agenda items, which would include the school improvement plans for MISCO, departmental budget presentations, and interim superintendent roles. Unless we have any other matters that we need to address, we'll entertain a motion for second. All in favor?
Aye.
We adjourned at 8:35. Thank you, everybody.